coming through and you're just not getting the new blooms. That's just typical of the questions that we have in this wonderful book that we put together.
And in fact, the next question has to do with cutting down your perennials. When do you need to do that? And I've heard some people say spring, some people say fall. I never really knew which was the right time. And the book says it's really your own personal preference. The difference is that if you decide to wait until spring because you really like those stalks sticking up through the snow in the winter that kind of remind you of your last year's growth, then make sure that you clean all that up before the new growth starts, because otherwise it's really too hard to separate the old growth from the new.
Right. You know, stay with us, because coming up in just a few moments here on the wonderful Gardener's Guide to Northeastern Ohio, when you put together a garden, it's wonderful just to sit back and watch the garden grow and to watch the birds and the butterflies and everything come to the garden. We're going to talk about how you can attract those to your garden in just a few moments here on WVIZ PBS. But right now, we want you to get to your telephone. We want you to charge your pledge, if you would, on your MasterCard, your Visa, your Discover card, or your check debit card.
Entertain your brain and support WVIZ PBS. When you call and pledge your support at the $60 level and above, using your Visa, Discover, MasterCard, or check debit card, your pledged dollars go to work instantly, bringing quality programming into your home. As our thank you, you'll receive a coupon worth $5 off of your next purchase of $50 or more at WVIZ's Store of Knowledge, located at South Park Center, Belden Village, or Beechwood Place. Thank you for charging your pledge to WVIZ PBS, where you belong.
And when you charge that pledge, why not say, make mine 180? And we would love you to do that, because that really gives WVIZ PBS the power to continue making these kinds of great programs. It breaks down to $15 a month, breaks down to only about 50 cents a day. And if you think about it anymore, you ever gone to the candy machine where you work and tried to just get a candy bar out of it, about 55 cents, 60 cents, something like that? It doesn't buy very much.
Think how much more healthy this programming is.
A whole lot more healthy. And you'll have these forever and ever. But public television is here. When you make that pledge of support, by the way, at the $180 level, it's not just for today's program. It's here to help make a season full of quality programming available. Public television needs to go to its community, and that's you, and get your voluntary support. The Federal Communications Commission, when public television stations were first licensed, said no commercials. You need to rely on the voluntary support of the communities that you serve, and that's what's happening here today. We're relying on you and those of you who enjoy public television and who value having a station that you can turn to that won't insult your intelligence, a station that when you turn to it you can feel that you had time well spent. And WVIZ PBS will guarantee that to you, but it takes the dollars to purchase the programs and send them your way. So get your telephone right now and make that pledge. It's critical that you do it. I think it's about time to go see how we bring butterflies and birds to the garden.
Oh, butterflies and birds, how pretty.
Let's go over and see Julie and Jeremy and find out who's in this Julie's garden right now.
Well, the color and the interest that comes from your garden doesn't just have to come from the plants. It can also come from birds and from butterflies.
And here from the Botanical Garden is Cynthia Mazer, our insect expert there, who's going to talk about some different ways to attract butterflies and birds to our gardens.
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, what I have here is a selection of different butterfly plants. It's sort of difficult to find blooming material this time of year, but we do have a few specimens here, both annuals and perennials. I'll start with a few annuals. In the very front, we have 3 different varieties of pentis, otherwise known as Egyptian starflower. They come in white, reds, and pinks. Red is usually the best variety for attracting butterflies, but all of them will do a fairly good job of doing that. Remember that, again, that these are annuals and you will have to purchase them every year, but they are one of the best butterfly attracting plants around. Next to those, we have heliotrope, which has a nice vanilla fragrance and is also a very good attractor for butterflies. You'll see different smaller butterflies on the heliotrope, such as skippers and other smaller butterflies, maybe even some swallowtails. Behind that, we have salvia. This is a different kind of a sage.
So we could use that in cooking as well.
Yes, sage is an excellent herb, and it will also attract butterflies. Sage comes in a multitude of colors, not the least of which is purple, reds.
I've seen some tricolors.
Yes, there are so many varieties out there right now. And the one butterfly that really likes the sages are the sulfur butterflies, or the yellow butterflies that you see. So those are really, really enjoyed by them. And then the 2 tallest plants we have back here are standard phlox, which is more of a spring and early summer bloomer, and sedum, which is a fall bloomer.
And both these are perennials?
Both of these are perennials. Phlox comes in a spreading variety, which is also very popular for many types of butterflies. And sedum, this variety isn't necessarily as attractive as the red varieties like Autumn Joy, like you mentioned before, which will really attract the butterflies in the fall, especially monarchs.
I think it's great to attract butterflies, but I know a lot of kids, especially when I teach, like to be able to see the whole life cycle of butterflies and see host plants that butterflies lay eggs on. Is that what this fennel is for?
Yeah, I mean, there are a certain number of plants called host plants, which are designed for butterflies for them to lay their eggs on. And so this is fennel. Another good plant is dill. Yeah, so both of those are attractive to the black swallowtail, which is a large butterfly, mostly black with yellow spots. If you have these in your garden, dill, fennel, or parsley, you'll be guaranteed to see black swallowtail eggs.
Now, what kind of butterflies do we have here in northeastern Ohio? What are we going to be attracting to our yard?
Monarchs, swallowtails, skippers, which are smaller, faster flying butterflies. You'll see some day-flying moths. You'll see some sulfurs, the yellow butterflies I mentioned before. We have quite a few varieties up here.
If you attract all these butterflies, do you have to be worried about the caterpillars eating up your other plants?
No, and not unless you've got a vegetable garden, because you know, as the cabbage loopers, the white butterflies that are so common that everybody sees, of course, their host plant is cabbage.
Okay.
So you do have to be concerned about if you don't want caterpillars eating your cabbage, then you probably either shouldn't plant cabbage or should plant much more other host plants like dill and fennel, and then don't mind if the butterflies actually eat them.
Okay, and how about some of the birds then we can attract?
You can attract birds all year long. In the very front we have some suet feeders here, which I recommend using in mostly the winter months. If you use suet in the summertime, it tends to go rotten and moldy, and a moldy suet is poisonous for birds. So you definitely want to use this just in the wintertime.
I know you can buy this suet, but it's also, I think, a great craft for kids where you can go out and get suet from a butcher, or mix it with some peanut butter and seeds, and actually make your own suet.
Right, and spread it on the trees or whatever. Yeah, you can do your own suet. And then there are different kinds of feeders. Tube feeders, such as this one, are excellent for just about every kind of smaller bird, chickadees, sparrows, small cardinals. What is good, though, and what you need to remind yourself is that you should not hang these any lower than 5 or 6 feet off the ground and 8 feet from the nearest tree or branch, because the squirrels will get to these feeders. Unless, of course, you have a baffle that covers the top, that prevents squirrels from getting to your feeder. Usually they make the baffles that will go over the top, or they even make baffles that go on a pole that will sit below the feeder that will prevent squirrels from crawling up the pole.
Because that is a big problem with any kind of bird seed.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, garden centers are so many different kinds of bird seed, and how important is it to have a high content of the black oil sunflower seed?
It's extremely important. In fact, most birds, that's what they prefer. And this seed mix has probably a 50 to 75% mixture of the black sunflower oil seeds. So that is very excellent. They also come with millet and cracked corn sometimes. And I would definitely recommend these because I think you'll attract the most birds and the most diversity of birds to your garden with those.
And again, what kinds of birds will we be attracting?
Cardinals. It depends on the feeder again. If you have a platform feeder, you'll get doves coming and maybe some starlings. But if you have smaller feeders with small perches like these, you'll get chickadees and titmice.
Why does this have the cage around it?
Again, this is a squirrel guard to
Okay.
prevent squirrels from crawling in. I've seen squirrels, though, actually climb onto this and try to reach their paws into here. Yeah, they're incorrigible.
But this would attract then the smaller birds into
Yes,
your yard.
correct. And they can squeeze in here and get the seeds out without getting stuck.
Is it important once you start feeding birds in the winter that you keep up with it, or
Absolutely.
will they be starving if you just let them down one week?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think they'll starve, but it's absolutely critical that if you've gotten your birds, your local birds, accustomed to feeding them, then you really need to continue that through the winter because they do come to depend on that.
Mm-hmm. And how about feeding through the summer? It's not as critical, but can you still attract them?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, as long as you provide the proper feeders with desirable food and a good cover. A water bath is also nice because they always do like to take baths. Yeah, it's absolutely necessary if you want to attract birds to your garden.
Okay, and let's talk about the last bird feeder because we didn't get to this one.
There are lots of different homes for
so this
birds.
is a home.
Yeah, that's a little home. And so is this one up here. Notice how small the holes are. One would think that they're too small for the birds to go into, but actually that's just about the right size. You don't want to attract any other pests or things that would get inside of that would disturb the birds and damage the chicks or even kill the chicks.
The great birdhouse I've seen is actually out of a gourd that you can just drill a hole in,
yes,
and has natural dried pulp and seeds in there, which the birds will eat, and it's a great kind of folky art thing to have in your garden, is to have a gourd with holes in it, and the birds can live in there.
Well, that's fantastic. And Cynthia Mazer, thanks again for being with us.
My pleasure.
Telling us how to attract the birds and the butterflies to our yards, and more information coming up, so stay with us.
One of the quotes I'll remember from this segment is that squirrels are incorrigible. And they really are. You know, Maureen, I love bringing birds to the yard, and we have there are 2 shagbark hickory trees. So it's like McDonald's to the squirrels in our area. I mean, they all come there. Their families have moved in. They've come from all over the country.
They bring all their friends.
Everybody's
it's the
there.
best vacation space.
Literally, if there's one squirrel, there's 20,000. I mean, there's so many. But so they always are going after the seeds, and I've done everything I can for the bird seeds, including one of these ones with the cages. And one day I came home, there were 6 squirrels hanging on the bird feeder, reaching in, just pulling out handfuls,
and handing them
to yeah. I thought they were filling little buckets and handing them down. But it's just amazing in our community keeping squirrels away from the bird feeders. It's a challenge all by itself.
It seems like squirrels in the trees and moles in the ground are always the big problem.
Just unbelievable. Go to your telephone right now. Make those phones ring. With your $60 pledge of support, we'll send you this incredible brand new book that we've been talking about for the last 3 hours and 45 minutes or so, The Gardener's Guide to Northeastern Ohio.
And you can't buy this anywhere.
It's not going to be available anywhere.
It's only available here.
The only way you could possibly have it is if you were a member of Cleveland Botanical Garden for 20 years, saved all of your newsletters, and then put them together into a book. That's the only way, because that's where it came from. Just fabulous. At the $90 level, you're going to have your choice of 2 things there also. You can either have The Gardener's Guide to Northeastern Ohio. That's the video that tomorrow our production team will be working on to put together just the segments you saw today from the professionals, and that will come to you as our way of saying thank you with some wonderful indexing that will allow you to get to the segments that are important to you at that particular time. If you'd rather something else, we'll send you the Cleveland Garden Handbook. It's the revised, updated 2nd edition put together by Susan McClure, expert local advice on growing a beautiful lawn and garden right here in Northeastern Ohio. Or why not go right to the $180 level? We hope that you'll consider doing that. And if you would do that, then we'll send you the complete package. And what a package it is. It's the Gardener's Guide to Northeastern Ohio, the wonderful book that we did with the Cleveland Botanical Garden. We also have the home video. We also have the Cleveland Garden Handbook. A great collection will come your way for a mere $180 pledge.
And you know, $180 is not a small amount of money, but we'd like you to pledge whatever you can. And if you can pledge $180, then we'd be glad to send you these fabulous thank you gifts. This show today really takes you on a journey. Takes you on a journey of where you can go in your garden, where you can go for a lot of beauty and serenity all at once. And that's what people get by gardening. They like to come home and after work or on the weekend, spend some time out there just kind of enjoying the beauty, as well as being able to really experience life in a whole different way.
It really is. It's just so quiet. It's so peaceful. And when you've had your hands on it, when it's your hands that have created it, it makes it very, very special. It's really something that is very, very satisfying. So go to your telephone right now. Make that pledge, whether it's $60, $90, $180. Just let us know that you've enjoyed this program and you want to see more programs like this continue. As a matter of fact, I think it's time to go back for another question.
Back to the Home and Garden Show.
Back to the Home and Garden Show. Let's find out what they're interested in this time.
My name's Terry Ronick. I'm from Ravenna, Ohio. And what can you tell me about the gas plant? Can you really light it on fire like some people say?
Well, the answer then from the book on page 67 is, I've never tried to ignite a gas plant, but according to the New York Botanic Garden Illustrated Encyclopedia of Horticulture, which is always a reliable source, it's possible. On a calm evening, if a flame is held near the stem and just underneath a cluster of flowers, a gas is given off by the plant that will ignite, resulting in a small burst of flame. What I didn't know is that a gas plant is another name for a burning bush. And actually, it can cause an allergic reaction on the skin of some people.